Hello and welcome back to the Breaking the Ice podcast. This is season 1, episode 6. For all of you who have been listening on and waiting on bated breath for this week's episode, we have an exciting guest this week. I am joined by another colleague here at the Ice Tech family, Jane Hegeler. So without further ado, Jane, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks, Elliott. Thanks for letting me be guest number 6. I'm honored.
Yeah. Yeah, we would have pushed you further up the queue, but corporate mandates and all that, right? How are you doing today?
I made it this far. I'm good,
thank
you.
Yeah.
All good in general.
Yeah. Weather's good over there?
As you can see, sun is shining, so I'm taking full advantage and sitting in it while we speak.
Happy days. I just realized I have a terrible tan line from my watch, which shows you that it's sunny here and I've been out running lately, which is good. What about you? Any fun runs?
Oh, runs? No, it's too hot for that. Swimming, a lot of outdoor swimming at the minute. That's a necessity to cool off. We're mid-30s here at the moment, so it's pretty hot.
But first thing in the morning, it's like no break from it?
It's still pretty humid, yeah. We start the day around 25, 26, to the point where you open the windows expecting horrendous. It to be cool, and it doesn't help.
That's horrendous. That's horrendous. You need to get in the car and turn the air conditioner on just to get a break from it.
Yeah, that takes about 5 minutes to cool down.
Which is ironically also contributing to the issues. So anyways, weather banter aside, it's nice to chat with you. Do you want to just give a little bit of a background and then we can get into it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think you know my name by now, Jane Hegeler. I've been in the industry for 25 years. My goodness.
You started, in all fairness, you started when you were 5 years old. So
I was literally just out of nappies. So, I mean, give me a break kind of thing. So for those that don't know, I spent quite a substantial amount of time in Thailand. We moved there as an expat family, during which time I had stints in various organisations, but I was working at the British Embassy at the time, and a friend of mine got sick, needed medical care. So took him to the local facility where at that time they didn't have an ultrasound machine. So I needed to take them to Bangkok Hospital, which I did. In Bangkok Hospital, there was an English lady that did translation work and helped the foreign patients. And I was intrigued by this kind of job. And I was like, hey, Janet, if you're ever leaving, let me know. And lo and behold, she called the embassy one day and I was like, I'm sending in my resume. And so I started working at a private hospital. This led me to obviously see a flow of patients coming in, foreign patients, utilizing travel insurance policies. And then there were the expats, which I was one. We fell into that group. We all had private policies, which were covered by corporates, or the organization for which the family worked for. So I started reaching out, doing a bit of research on the one computer we had for 40 staff members. And I came across ITIC and joined one of their conferences in Brighton. And that was, I think, 2001, I believe it was. From there, my career's just evolved. I was then drafted onto the assistant side of things, which was another exciting challenge. I've worked around many different medical facilities within the APAC region. I've worked for assistance companies doing traditional leisure travel to companies looking after Defence Base Act and Workers' Comp out of the US in high-risk areas. Then I came and had my second child and thought I needed a bit of a break. And lo and behold, I spoke with you, Elliott, and here I am on the, as we once knew it, as the Nordic Insurance Software side.
And ever the salesman, I sold you on the idea of it being much less strenuous. And that's enough. We won't go into actually whether or not that came true.
I think we better stop this here. We're on we're on the record.
Yeah.
And it's been 4 years. It's actually 4 years. This month
Well, listen, I can say on behalf of everybody, it's been amazing having you on board these 4 years, because I feel like the industrial knowledge transfer that you've been able to bring and impart on the teams has been invaluable. I know they still have a long way to go, but such is the case with progress, right?
Yeah.
And really, I mean, it's great to have folks with lived experience be able to influence our products and services. I know it's something that I've always tried to contribute as well. Context matters so much, and I do think it's helped shape our platform in a positive way. We can have very, specific conversations that resonate with people because we do have, folks that have lived experience in the industry that understand the importance of assistance and the important components of assistance, right? What really matters in order to make sure that somebody's taken care of from various different stakeholders, right?
Absolutely.
From the insurer side, from the patient side, and we could distill that into the product that we're working on. So, amazing background. It was a delight to hear from you 4 years ago, and it's been fantastic. Jane, you and I travel a lot for this job. Sometimes we cross paths at events, and sometimes we cover our respective time zones. Where are you going to be in the next few months?
So I've got a couple of UK trips planned just to see some of our clients. I'm going to be joining this conference in September. Then we've got IAG, where we will actually join forces in Istanbul, and that's closely followed by ITIC. So that's hopefully taking me to the end of the year. There could be a Christmas party in there somewhere.
Yeah, but location to be determined, right?
Yeah. I'm waiting to hear from the industry gurus out there that are doing the organizing.
This conference is fantastic. I mean, they've done such a great job at curating that event, getting, I think how they started and what they built from a journalism standpoint was great, and they've distilled that into the event. Like, it's really good content that they're able to bring to light.
It is. And I think there is the thought from some people in the industry that they are too alike and attracting the same clientele as the ITIC conference. But in my opinion, I think it differs drastically in terms of the angle of what we're looking at from an industry perspective. And also you're looking more at, there's a lot more insurers and brokers, I feel, that attend this event that are driving the policy side. Whereas ITIC is still, I think, very much provider assistance kind of focused. I think it's a great achievement and a compliment to each other, I think, the respective events.
Yeah. We're all fishing in the same pond at the end of the day, right? So there's bound to be overlap.
Of course,
yeah.
Of course.
The news roundup that they publish is great too. I picked up a couple of headlines from the last one. I think 4 or 5 of the articles that they published were just acquisitions.
Okay,
like I was shocked to see. I mean, okay, I'm being a bit hyperbolic. I wasn't shocked, but ever the salesman. It was. I mean, it's been amazing to see how much M&A activity there's been in the travel space. A lot of brands are getting swept up. The one that stood out to me quite notably was Allianz acquired NIB in Australia. I don't know if you picked up on that, but that was hung up for a while because of anti-competition, right? So I think regulate, like it's not so much like insurers acquiring insurtechs, like it's big brands that are coming together. Kind of like Nordic Insurance Software and ICE, right?
Absolutely, huge brands. But saying that, we are leaders in our respective areas, as on the travel side and on the P&C. So, no, I mean, the acquisitions that we've seen over the last 6 years has been, it's grown exponentially. I don't think it's specific just to the travel market. I think it's to the world over. But like you say, I think a lot of, I don't know what I'm seeing or what I think I'm seeing or hearing is that, there's a lot of the multinationals buying up from an insurer perspective. But when it comes down to assistance, although there are some acquisitions going on, I do think that some of the bigger companies still rely heavily on those independent organizations that are running in their respective small areas, whether that be in Sudan or in Bali or Vietnam, for example. So I do still think that there are a lot of smaller independent companies out there. We just maybe don't see the visibility at the high level end of the spectrum. They're being used, but along the chain.
Well, I think that sort of segues into a separate point on, AI and technological
Yeah.
advancement in assistance, which I want to get to. But just going back to the merger side, do you feel like the market is getting smaller? Or, I mean, because that would be the implied outcome, right? Is if all of this acquisition activity is happening, it's just a lot of bigger fish and fewer of the bigger fish.
Yeah, I don't know if I felt the ripples of that yet. In terms of, so obviously I'm not coming from an insurer per se background. From an we still see all the various different brands out there. But when it comes down to the actual claims and assistance side of things, I think that you are seeing actually underwritten into policies a lot fewer. Whereas years ago you would have, now you can pick up pretty much, I would say in the UK, any policy, and I could look on what's the number that you call, and we know those guys, they're one of the big guys. You're not picking up on the smaller organizations or the independents anymore. You're looping into a big part. So yeah, maybe the market is shrinking in that sense in terms of the names that are being flung around, but I still think behind the scenes there are still a lot of smaller companies there, but we're just not having that direct interaction or visibility of them.
I think.
What do you think?
I think there's definitely consolidation happening, but I think there's a couple of interesting macro factors that are bringing new entrants into the market. So I don't actually think the market's getting smaller, or like the target addressable market is getting smaller. First of all, travel is a global industry by definition. And so you get a lot of globalization from a sort of regional or branch office standpoint, right? I think you have successful multinational insurers that have the ability by way of travel to scale to new markets, right? Insurer X might not have a brand in, country Y, right? So they've got a successful business running elsewhere. They don't have presence in country Y. They can become a new entrant without being a startup, so to speak, right? And I think there's a lot of that happening across North America, across Europe. We're seeing established brands take up roots. And I think the other thing that's happening the other reason why that's happening is because travel insurance awareness is permeating across multiple channels, right? So it's not just like consumer awareness. Like the UK is the mecca for all insurance. You can go to Sainsbury's and buy a policy, right? Like it's crazy. But I think parking the UK for a second, the way that travel insurance is distributed is becoming more aware from a B2B standpoint. And so there's a lot more B2B partnerships happening. And because there's more B2B partnerships happening, there's more corporate partnerships happening. There's more travel being embedded into employee benefit schemes, into credit card schemes, into your, bank account offering, whatever the case might be. You're just getting an uptick overall in coverage. And look, regulated insurance is so heavily saturated. I think insurers are always looking for new lines that aren't yet as saturated. And I think travel presents that for them. So I think we are seeing like a churn of new faces in because of those factors.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've seen an increase in travel from a perspective of the UK. Travel was something that in the past, not everybody would invest in it. They're just, okay, it will never happen to me. So they didn't buy it. We've seen lots of incidents that have caused people to reconsider that approach. But we're
Mhm.
also looking at the markets around Asia, around Africa. If you can afford to travel, you can afford to pay for a hospital bill. So why take out insurance? Nowadays, that has completely changed. So yeah, I think there's a huge growth in the travel market on a bigger, wider global scale.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, right? Medical cost inflation is making insurance a much more sound investment
Yeah.
for travelers, right? And just globalization in general, right? There's more.
Yeah.
I mean, you were one of the early expat families, right? But the reality is, it's you've got like digital nomads now. You've got this whole new cachet of expat workers, a lot of them independent consultants. It's not like, corporate assignments. So they need to go out and find their own insurance. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a much more traveled world, right? Um,
Well, I think if I listened to my parents, their holidays was one day at the beach a year. It was a day in the car. Everybody wore their suits and their best clothes and went to, it was travel was a luxury. People didn't travel like they do nowadays. Getting on a plane is like getting on a bus for many people,
yeah,
me included.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So now just pivoting a little bit into the point that you were talking about, which is the unique nature of assistance and
Yeah.
where technology is going to be able to provide advancement and efficiency and where it's not. Um, what's your take on the current state of play in the assistance space, and then after that we can talk about what comes next.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it from the beginning where assistance was done on a notepad and a mobile phone, and then we evolved into Excel spreadsheets to actually having dedicated systems. Where we are today, I think the big players out there know that they need to adopt because cannot make any um, they cannot make any profit if they don't provide the efficiencies through the use of technology. So I think, we've seen it. Lots of people have spoken about, straight through processing, keeping the human in the loop, that automation is key. But the reality is that I believe a lot of small companies are adopting it as well. It's not just the big players anymore. It's not the ones with the huge budgets. Things can be done at all levels across the food chain when it comes to the assistance world. And I think when you've got assistance operations, you want to clear out the simple, straightforward, smooth stuff. Yeah, okay, you've broken your arm, your flight's delayed, we've got it sorted, blah, blah, blah. For those, get that case done using automation as much as possible with forwarding tickets, changing flights, processing claims, to letting the human actually still focus on the those that really are in need, those that are really in the dire situations, that are stuck overseas and don't have a lot of options. So I think there's been a huge increase over the last 5 years specifically. And then where we are today with AI, we're in a different world. I think a lot of people are talking about it. I don't know how many are really actually using it, other than the ones that we personally know of, some of our client base, for example, just because we have to be very, very careful. There's a fine line regulatory wise, and they're dangerous tools if they're not used correctly and not got the right guidance. But I think where we're heading is that we're going to be in a position where lots of things will never touch. We won't. That bordereau that's produced, that's the only time anybody gets knowledge of those claims. Other than the big expend outs where obviously somebody's been in a pretty bad situation.
Yeah, lots to unpack there. The one thing that jumps immediately to mind though is just on the regulatory side of things. I'm actually quite positively encouraged by how much more proactive regulators are treating AI and working with industry on AI. The EU just published their latest AI regulatory framework. They can fine AI firms up to 3% of revenue.
Yeah.
That's sort of the max cap, which for some of the industries, I mean, it's significant, right? You're talking billions of dollars. I I find it a positive and encouraging step because I feel like, we as a firm are very well positioned focusing specifically on reliability, availability, scalability. I mean, that's, we've invested so much in our security and infrastructure. I'm encouraged by it. And I think that in regulators being more proactive, it's going to weed out a lot of bad actors early on.
Absolutely. No, I think it's very that the regulator has got the framework in place and the guidelines or their regulation. I think it's critical at this stage because, as we know, in all industries, there are the cowboys out there. And sadly, with the industry we work in, this is real people. This is real personal, sensitive information and data. So it's critical that it's obviously dealt with in a professional and safe manner.
If you are particularly interested to the listenership and the viewership in reliability, availability, and scalability, we will have an episode coming out focusing on that in the coming weeks. So pay attention and stay tuned. Going back to it, though, the other point that you made, right, is just keeping human touch in the assistance world. I mean, there's a duty of care in assistance. There's a human element to providing support in time of crisis. I think assistance will never be automated for that reason. I think it's impossible. I mean, you can disseminate as much decision making as possible. You can outsource that to machines as much as possible, but at the end of the day, humans still want to interact with humans in time of crisis. And so I think there's always going to need to be human touch points. And that's throughout the life of an assistance journey, right? That's not just at initial point of contact. I think it's taking care of somebody to make sure they're made whole at the end of the day.
As long as we have feelings, we're going to need human interaction in those times of needs, and we need empathy as well. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but who knows where we'll be, Elliott? I hope we never have to eat our words, because I do believe humans will always be needed in the assistance world. But as we become desensitized and robotic, who knows? We might not want that anymore. We might want the full automated. I'm not saying me, but humanity in general, who knows where we'll be in 20 years' time, 50 years' time.
Yeah. The next generation. We both have young kids. The next generation is a bit scary to think about what their life is going to be like in 20 years, right?
But I think, going back to that assistance really is where you demonstrate and show what you invested in when you became a policyholder in your insurance. And I think going back to the whole AI piece is that if you don't do it right, this day and age, social media, everything is negative and you are scarred. That leads back to what was the brand of insurance that person bought. And so when you're asking ChatGPT, who is the best travel insurer out there, all of those things interlink. That's still that assistant input and interaction and smooth, just basically holding hands with that person in need at that time, feeds back into the whole, AI piece, automate all the simple stuff, but keep that focus.
Yeah, look, I mean, insurance by definition is risk mitigation, right? So I think there's always going to be, there's never going to be the first movers, being the insurers. I am interested to get your thoughts though, in terms of like where can the tech of today help assistance companies innovate? I obviously also, have thoughts on this, but in terms of what's available on the market today, I mean, what can assistance companies do right now to help optimize how they're supporting patients, but also, how they can provide better services to their clients, the insurers or corporations or whatever the case might be?
Think, and this is not it's not a sales pitch, but I think some of the tools that we have, for example, with Orchestrator, is that when we have a case, we have somebody at the end of the phone that AI can provide us with a quick overview of their PMH. I'm not talking the checklist of, yes, they've got hypertension, yes, they've got high blood pressure. give me it in a couple of sentences. What am I dealing with here? So that I've got that full view already. So I know, what direction, how severe is this situation? Also, in terms of location of patient, where are they? AI and some of the tools can be used to, ensure that the patient is in the right facility early on without having to wait for the patient to tell you that, hold on, I don't think I've got the right level of care here. This country is not the best country for me. I think there's things that can be done that it shouldn't just necessarily be reliant on the assistance worker, which it quite often is. It's about experience and knowledge of working in the industry for a long time. I think AI can be taking some of this intelligence, the machine learning basically, and helping hold hand of the assistance worker while they're holding the hand of the insured.
That was amazingly subtle, Jane. You're going to be brought back for episode 7 for sure.
Yeah. I'll see you next week.
Yeah. No, I think
I'd have practiced if I'd have known I'd be saying this.
Yeah. I think what underlies that is, for me, it's two things, right? The two quick wins for assistance companies, which are actually quite impactful, and are iteratable in the future, are, data quality, data integrity for data analysis purposes, and connectivity, right? And I think connectivity maybe sometimes gets sort of glossed over as this foregone conclusion, but I honestly think that's one of the lowest hanging fruit for assistance companies, is being able to connect to a disparate, set of systems, or being able to connect to the broader world that you're servicing. Assistance is tremendously network dependent. And I don't mean that like provider network. I mean like you belong to a broad ecosystem. You have to worry about constantly changing exchange rates, multiple different languages that you're supporting, multiple different channels of communication, whether it's voice or, web chat or text or whatever the case might be. And modern APIs, modern systems should give you the ability to scale your services across all those channels, but then also synthesize all the other, components to your services that you're going to need in real time. Like I said, whether it's foreign exchange rates, whether it's making payments more seamless, settling outstanding payments in a more seamless way. These are all incremental improvements that you can build into your operations that help you compete.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the byproduct of that is just better data, right? So you connect all of these things together, you have a cleaner picture to then sell to, your prospective clients on the insurance side, or, on the B2B or corporate side, right? If you have that more connected picture, if you have transcripts that you can learn from, if you have a history of provider claims payments that you can then use to, negotiate pricing on, like all of that, they're small incremental improvements, but when you add them all up, it can be pretty substantial in competing in a pretty interestingly competitive market.
Absolutely. And it is a competitive market. It is. And regardless of the size of the industry, the market itself is very niche. Everybody knows each other. So I think it's important to have these advantages over your competitors. And the knowledge sharing, what you say, Elliott, it's not just for you to reach out to your clients, it's for you to share with your clients, for them to write better business, for them to know what, the insured are looking for, needing, and what the limits should be.
Again, I think a couple macro factors here. Money follows where there's opportunity. Investment follows where there's opportunity. It's not a saturated market. It's going to become more competitive because it's not yet commoditized. It's not a race to the bottom from a pricing standpoint. There's still the opportunity to differentiate and add value, and so competition's going to increase. Technology has also become less expensive, so it's democratizing the industry. It's lowering the barriers to entry to the industry, right? So, I do anticipate a lot of new entrants, a lot more competition in the future, which is exciting because the end result is better and safer travel for everyone, which is what we all want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Jane,
no,
I know you've got to run in a few minutes. Anything else, that we didn't cover that you want to chat about before we let you go here?
No, I don't know. I just think, let's just be honest. This industry is never boring. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, it's not just the big players that are out there. It's everybody. Everybody's important and key to this industry. And as you say, as tech has evolved, it's no longer just sitting with the big guys to take the lead. The small companies are out there doing some really cool, innovative things with technology. And I think they work hand in hand to making this industry and giving it the reputation it deserves, not just when there's been a bad assistance case and somebody's upset because we didn't take them home when they were drunk and on a stag do and head dived into a swimming pool and your policy doesn't cover you, that it genuinely deserves. So, yeah.
It was funny. I was in Kenya in March, and so we were meeting with a lot of, regional African service providers and assistance companies. And we were doing this sort of like case, sort of like a simulation of different scenarios. And as we were going through the different scenarios, one was about finding a service provider in remote Uzbekistan and needing to worry about the topography and it's not just like finding the closest provider, but navigating through mountain ranges. And all I could think was like, gosh, there's so much opportunity now with technology to provide better service.
Absolutely.
Right? At the click of a button, you can do so much better and richer research into how to solve problems. It's just such an exciting time to be in this industry.
It is, yeah. I've been around like we both have for a while now, and it doesn't get boring. There's always a new challenge or something that's evolving that just keeps you intrigued and keeps you enticed into never wanting to work in a normal, regular industry, basically. Don't think I'll be moving anywhere fast.
No. Well, that's good for us as well. So, Jane, it was lovely speaking with you and recording it on camera. It's just all the times we chat on a weekly basis. It's great having you on. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with all of us today. I'm sure we'll have you on again in the future. And for anybody that wants to get a hold of Jane or interact with her, you can certainly find her on LinkedIn. You have a pretty active presence on LinkedIn. And yeah, I guess like you said, you'll be at this conference. That's beginning of October, end of September?
That's 22nd of September. So
Perfect.
I was just in London. And not Istanbul, or if you're ever in the Frankfurt region, let me know. Here I am.
Perfect. All right, Jane, thank you so much. Until next time. All right, thanks everyone.
Bye.